Nation, where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for supporting our channel by watching and listening.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Hi, my name is Daryl, and I'm a veteran.
Hey, I'm Travis. I'm an Air Force veteran.
Hey, my name's Johnathan, and I'm a veteran.
Hi, my name's Ashley, and I'm a veteran.
My name is Chad, and I'm a veteran.
Well, good evening. Happy Sunday. My name's Carolee. I am your host for Conversations with a Vet. I have a wonderful guest waiting patiently in backstage. Before we get started, I do want to say thank you to everybody who comes out and watches the shows, either live like today or any of the or the recorded things that are after the fact. Be sure, if you haven't already, to please make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because it's what is going to advise you when new shows are available to watch. In addition to that, I want to say that this show is going to be my 106th interview. I'm super excited. So please help me welcome John Cole. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Hey, Carolee, how's it going?
It's going great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on.
Nice. I'm super excited. It's an honor to have you here. And thank you very much for your service. So I always like to start the show by asking my guests to tell me a little bit about who they were as a child. So who was John Cole as a kid?
So probably like most kids from Western North Carolina, that's where I grew up, was in Western North Carolina, in a small, I come from a place that literally still even today only has one high school for the entire county. So very, very small place. So yeah, I mean, I grew up, my dad worked construction work. My mom worked in a factory. I was primarily raised by my grandmother. She did time in the Navy, in the 50s and 60s.
Wow.
So I got a lot of lessons learned and a lot of attitude adjustments and discipline from her growing up. So yeah.
That's always fun. So, gosh, 50s and 60s, she was in the Navy.
Uh-huh.
Were your folks in the military at all?
No, so my mom and dad wasn't. My mom actually was born at the original Naval Hospital at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Okay.
And so that's actually where I retired out of, was at Camp Lejeune as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, though, I guess.
Yeah. So tell me about your education. So were you studious in school? Did you like it?
So no, I did not like school at all. I'm even still today, I'm not very good at like standard or curriculum type of learning. I can learn things, especially if I get to do it with my hands. I'm a very hands-on type of person. And that's probably the reason I picked up and did well in the military. I do well in IT because that's what I do as a profession. I do IT stuff. And so it's a lot of hands-on configuration type things. So I'm really good at learning those types of things. But when it comes to learning stuff out of the book, having to read it, remember it, I am horrible at it.
I am not a good test taker.
I am horrible at taking tests.
Yeah, I'll study weeks on end for an exam.
Yep.
But then, and I'll have it down, but the minute that test gets put in front of me, I have such high test anxiety. And the biggest, I mean, any little sound throws off my concentration and I'm done for. I'm absolutely done for. It's like, I'm out.
So I'm kind of the exact opposite. I can't stand when it's quiet. Like we're working from home. So I work remote. So like I don't have the noise of an office around me and stuff. So I'll keep
Yeah,
like Pandora or something on in the background just to have some noise, some background noise, because I can't stand when it's super quiet.
nice. Did you play any sports when you were in school?
So I didn't play any like organized sports. I like playing sports with like my cousins and stuff. So I'm also an only child, so I didn't have any siblings growing up, but I had
Okay.
older cousins, and so we'd always play like football, baseball, or basketball, like out in the yard and stuff. But outside of that, no, I didn't. But my senior year of high school, I started rodeoing. I started riding bulls. So that's still a sport in my opinion. I still
It is. Of course it is.
oh, rodeo is a sport. Like some people may not see it that way, but it is. And so I did that for probably almost 3.5 years.
I saw the cowboy hats there on the wall,
Yeah.
so kind of made me wonder. Which so that's great. And I'm originally, well, prior to being where I'm at now, I was in Montana. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So okay, you graduate high school, I presume.
Yep.
What was it that made you decide that you wanted to join the military, and specifically the branch that you chose?
So I always knew I wanted to be a Marine, nothing else. My grandma was in the Navy. I had on my dad's side had an uncle that was in the Army, some great uncles that were in the Air Force, but never had anybody that I can remember talking to in the family that was a Marine. And so it's something I'd always wanted to do. And so I graduated high school in 2003. And what really wanted to make me want to join was when 9/11 happened. I can remember I was sitting in English class in high school. It was my junior year. So first semester of my junior year of high school, 9/11 happened. And then the fall of my senior year, which would have been the fall of 2002, I went to the recruiting office and I depped in, entered a delayed entry program. And so my entire senior year, I had a ship date, was getting ready to go to recruit training, but I also started riding bulls my senior year as well. And so ended up getting injured, hurting my knee, and couldn't go off to recruit training then. And so I didn't actually get to come into the Marine Corps until 2006.
That's a significant time.
Yeah.
So you were injured pretty badly, huh? What
Yeah, it
happened?
was so when I was riding bulls, and if you know anything about rodeo or watched a rodeo, when the bulls come out of the chute, when it did, the chute opened and the bull kind of leaned against as it came out, and so my knee rammed into the chute post where the
Mm,
gate closes and stuff, and tore my knee up pretty good, bruised it real bad. I was on crutches for about a month after that, and this happened in like early May timeframe of 2003. I was supposed to ship off to recruit training in June of 2003, so like a month later. So I remember going into my recruiter's office on crutches, and I'd already been in the delayed entry program for like almost at the max that I could be. And so
right.
he was like, "Yeah," he's like, "I can't push you out any further." He's like, "I'm going to have to discharge you from the depth because of this injury." And I'm like, "Well, okay. I mean, well, what does that mean?" He's like, "It's just you're looks like you're not going into the Marine Corps now." And I was like, "Okay." And he told me he looked at me and said, "I would never think about the Marine Corps again. I made the worst decision I ever made in my life. All this other stuff." And like at the time, he was probably right, honestly, because I just continued to ride bulls after that.
And okay, so you healed up then,
Yep, yep.
and then just kept riding bulls. So what was it then that made you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to try again.
Yeah. So it sounds very cliche, and the reason I say is because me and some of my bull riding buddies, we were one night watching TV, and one of the recruiting commercials come on, like one of the old school Marine Corps recruiting commercials, where he's
Mhm.
climbing up the mountain. There's the lava monster at the top, and I'm like, I'm not getting any younger, and I still want to do this. And so, literally that Saturday morning, I went to the recruiter's office, and it was probably the easiest pulley he'd ever had in his entire career, like hands down. Because I went in, I was like, "Hey, look, I've already done this. Already been through this process once. You don't have to sell me on it because I already know what I want and I know when I want to leave. And let's just get this done." And so within a week or two, I was at MEPS taking ASVAB, and within 2 months, I was shipping off to recruit training.
Nice. So tell me what it was like for you the minute you step off that bus and you stand on those yellow footprints. What was going through your mind?
I was like, what did I get myself into? It was hectic. I remember standing on the yellow footprints and just, it was like standing in the middle of a tornado. Like, I don't know how any other way to explain it. It was insane. Just yelling, like having to move faster than I've ever had to move before. Again, I felt like I was moving fast, but I probably wasn't moving that fast, but you feel like you are. And it was just like that whole next week there was very little sleep, just getting this processed in, getting our haircut, like getting all our sea bag full of equipment and stuff. And it was a lot like in a very short period of time.
Now, when you got your haircut, was it long prior to, you knew it was coming, right?
So I knew it was coming. So I went ahead and got a haircut a little bit before I went. So it wasn't that long that they had to cut off, but it also wasn't super short either. So
yeah, I know mine. He had it so long as he could have had it, because he knew they were going to chop it off and he wanted to make it worth their while. So
I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I didn't have it super long, because like they weren't super good clippers. So like if it had been really long, it would have got caught and it'd been pulling my hair. I was like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't do that.
Kind of dull. Maybe we should all, put a GoFundMe together to send him some new shears.
I think that's part of the experience.
I guess a little hair pulling.
Yeah.
So you get through that. Now, obviously you're an adult at this point. What did you tell your parents this is what you were going to do? And if so, what was your mom's response?
So I didn't tell my parents until after I'd already went to MEPS and did the ASVAB and got my ship date. So I didn't tell them until after I was like already going.
So they couldn't talk you out of it at that point.
No. And then they I don't think they could have, even if they wanted to, honestly. Like it was something I'd set my eyes on a long time ago, and it's something I still wanted to do at this point. So I don't think they could have talked me out of it. But yeah, they were a little heartbroken, but they were also proud of me at the same time. They were worried just because in 2006 it was kind of at the plus up and kind of the heat of the war, global war on terrorism and stuff around that time. And so a lot of things had happened already too, with the war and everything. So they was just worried, like any parent would be.
Right.
But yeah, but they were still proud of me and happy for my decision.
Which, that's a great parent, right? I know how I was. Mine wanted to be initially in Navy, and then his older brother had his unit was the 2-1 unit out of California. In 2021 in August, they'd gotten detoured from Japan to Abigate, and it was his unit that with the 13 servicemen and women that passed. And because of that, my youngest changed his mind and decided he wanted to go into the Marine Corps. So yeah, it's interesting to say the least. But so you go through, how long after you started and you're sitting there do you have to write a letter to home?
Oh shoot. I don't think I got to write my first letter home. It felt like forever. Like recruit training's only 13 weeks, so it was, obviously it's not that long, but it felt like forever. It definitely wasn't the first week, and I feel like it was closer to the end of the second week.
Okay.
When I was finally able to write home. I do remember the phone call at the very beginning when we checked in. So that was super quick, and we had a script we had to read and everything. And like if you deviate from that at all, like you're in big trouble. Like it's going to be a bad day for you. Like it's already a bad day, but it's about to be a worse day.
As a mom, I can tell you, I waited and waited and waited for that call, and it never came.
Oh.
What had happened, and I found this out at graduation, was that the phone he was at was not connected.
Yeah.
Oh. And he's like, I said, well, did you tell him? And he says, I just told him I couldn't reach you. And he said, try again. So I just dialed, and there was not even a dial tone that he had. I was like, great. Okay. Well, I just knew the only thing I could tell myself is no news is good news.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'd be hearing from the recruiter or somebody else. So
Yeah.
that's all I could
Exactly.
it was not easy as a mom. But so you were going through the process, you're making friends, and I would guess you're making friends.
Yeah, I mean, as best as you could, because like we I remember we couldn't talk to each other really that much. And we did when I guess we did, but we weren't supposed to a lot of times. Like we kind of like sneak talk, I guess. So you would still meet people, but it wasn't like you didn't get to hang out and just talk to them like on the Foot Locker or anything like that every day. So, but you kind of you start learning who people are and kind of what they're about and stuff a little bit. Not you don't I w- you feel like friends just because you're going through all the same stuff together, right? It's kind of
Right.
like it's like friends by pain, if you would, you know.
Do you talk to any of them still? At all?
Actually, no. So I haven't even like after I got out of recruit training and went through MCT and stuff and got to my first unit, I haven't seen anybody that I went to recruit training with. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, so tell me about your favorite week of training in the Marine
ooh,
Corps. Because
oh
obviously
man,
there's a lot, right? So you've
yeah.
got your climb or your rappelling, you've got your gas chamber, you've got
So
your rifle.
I think rifle range week was probably my favorite week because it was most of the time like the drill instructors couldn't mess with you because you were out on the range like shooting and stuff, and so like they weren't allowed to mess with you most of the day while you were out on the range. So I would probably say range week because of that reason. But I also like I grew up in the country, so I enjoyed the shoot and stuff. But again, I think the Marine Corps kind of put more of that into me and made me enjoy it even more just because of how they teach you to shoot.
Nice, very nice. I know mine was he liked the rappelling, and of course he was learning to shoot when he was 2,
Yeah.
but he also loved the gas chamber.
Oh,
Of all things, I
oh
know.
no,
I was like, who knew? I didn't think anybody would like that, but
no, I don't know anybody that does.
well, now you know one.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I raised a psychotic person, I guess. I don't know. So, you graduate. Were your family able to come?
Yep, my family came down, because it wasn't that far of a drive, like, being from North Carolina and then going to Parris Island for recruit training, it's not that bad of a drive. So, yeah, they came down, my mom, my grandma came down and stuff, and they saw me walk across the parade deck and graduate, so it was a good time.
How were the sand fleas?
Oh, they were horrible. They were horrible, and we couldn't move, you couldn't knock them off, you couldn't do anything, like, if you moved, you got thrashed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was out there for graduation at Parris Island, and I was amazed. They were everywhere.
Yep.
So after graduation, you said you went to MCT.
Yep.
So okay, what's the difference between MCT and ITB?
So MCT is Marine Corps Combat Training. That's where all non-infantry MOSs go and do their combat training. All infantry MOSs go to the ITB or Infantry Training Battalion
Excellent.
for their stuff.
And your MOS that you signed up for?
So when I first came into Marine Corps, I was an 0656, a data specialist or data tactical data network specialist. My MOS changed like 4 or 5 times because the Marine Corps shifting things around and changing different like occupational fields and stuff. But that's what I originally came in as.
All right. So you go to MCT and tell me, where was it located for you?
At Camp Geiger, North Carolina.
Okay.
So right outside of Camp Lejeune area, or right
Yep.
by the Camp Lejeune area. Yeah, so it was there. I don't even remember how long it was, but I got there in October. So like beginning, middle of October, graduated. It was, I suppose, maybe 4 weeks, I think, something like that. But most of it was we were out in the field doing all like the combat training stuff, and it went by pretty quick. It wasn't too bad. It was a lot better than recruit training. Like it wasn't as, I guess, it wasn't the yes sir, no sir type of environment that recruit training was. It's a little more relaxed, not at like I wouldn't say it was super relaxed, but it was a little more relaxed in recruit training, which was nice. So it was a little different.
They treat you like a Marine at that point?
Yes, but they still treat you like an entry level student though. So but you don't get treated like a recruit. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
We would get yelled at if we called them sir because they're all sergeants mostly that are your instructors. So that took a little bit of kind of getting used to because it comes straight from recruit training to where it's yes sir, no sir, I sir, and that's all you say. And then you go there and they don't want you to call them sir at all. So it was a little bit different.
So you finish your training. Now, back then, that would have been still 2006?
Yep, that was still in 2006. That would have been fall of 2006.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, technology was improving, but it was nowhere near where it is today. So, what kind of technology had you been involved with prior to joining?
None. I didn't know anything about computers. I know a little bit about the internet, but that was like a little bit. That was really it. I know how to get on like oh shoot, what was the old like was it MapQuest? Is that what it was called? Like the old
Yes.
original? Yeah.
Yes.
It's like I know how to do that just because I was rodeoing, so we were always trying to find directions to go places. Like that was all I knew how to do. Right. I didn't know anything else, and so everything I know now is I've learned while I was in the Marine Corps.
Yeah. Yeah. So it had to have been a little bit difficult to grasp some of the technology with not having any kind of a real background in it.
So it was at first. So after I graduated MCT, I went out to 29 Palms, California, because that's where my MOS school is at. That's where MCSS or the Marine Corps Communications Electronics School is at, is in 29 Palms. And
Okay.
so if you are a communications like MOS, you always go to 29 Palms for your school. So went out there. I was there from around Veterans Day time frame until like the end of March of 07. So I was there for a few months. But it was a little bit difficult at first. But what I will say is that's one thing even back then, they did a really good job at kind of breaking it down to make it understandable because I wasn't the only one in that same position where coming into the Marine Corps and you're doing IT stuff and you don't have an IT background, especially at that time and age,
Right.
like
Exactly right.
so I thought they did a really good job. They try to make it as plain language as possible and not use a lot of like the technical jargon. They try to make it sound like make it relate to stuff. And yeah, I mean, graduated there in March and got to my first unit by the end of March of 2007.
And where was that first unit?
Marine Air Support Squadron 3 at Camp Pendleton, California.
Nice. Okay. How long were you there for?
So I was at Camp Pendleton. I was there from March of 07 until July of 2011, but I was with two different units during that time. And so my first half of that time was with Mass 3, went to Iraq with them in 08. So from January to August of 2008, went to Iraq with them, and then came back in August of 08, and then around June, July of 2009, I got PCA orders, which means I move units, but I stay on the same duty station. So PCSing means I actually changed duty stations. This one I just stayed on Camp Pendleton, just went to a new unit. And so the summer of 2009, I went to Combat Logistics Battalion 1, also still at Camp Pendleton, and then got there July, went to 29 Palms for training, for a month-long training in August. September had pre-deployment leave, and then in October and 1st of October we were leaving to go to Afghanistan. So I was with them maybe 3 months before I went to Afghanistan.
Okay, let's go back. So when you said you went to Iraq.
Mhm.
And tell me a little bit about what that was like for you stepping off the plane and your first impression.
It was definitely it was it was probably the most difficult thing I saw at that time. But at the same time, after getting there, getting in a routine, that was actually my easiest deployment. Hands down was my easiest deployment. Being with a Marine Air Support Squadron, didn't go outside the wire, didn't do any of those things. I just provided them with tactical communications so they could provide the Direct Air Support Center. That's what they did. And so they were the ones that handled any kind of air traffic that they needed, like any kind of air support, like whether it be guns or medevacs, things like that. They are the ones that coordinate all that. And so like just providing them with comms. So it wasn't really that bad. The hardest part was just getting into a routine the first month I was there. But after that, it was pretty good. Actually, had really good chow, had a good place to sleep. We slept in like little 2-person trailers. So it was actually wasn't bad. Got to take a shower every day. Got to wash my clothes all the time. So it was actually really good.
That is good. So tell me, you said you had really good chow. Tell me about what the food was like. Did you have a cook, or
yeah,
were you
so
MRE in it?
No, so like this deployment I didn't touch an MRE once on that deployment. We had an actual chow hall. We actually had 2 chow halls at Camp Fallujah. They were really nice, had really good food. I mean, anything from chicken and rice to always having veggies. There was always a protein, starch, and a veggie that we could always eat at every meal.
Nice. Very nice. Did you come across any of the notorious spiders there?
So I saw camel spiders a couple of times while I was there. No, they are big. Like they are gross looking. Like they don't look like a spider at all.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I've seen video of Marines and soldiers literally jumping up on their beds to get away from them on their racks. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So for those of you who have not seen a camel spider, go out and Google it or go to YouTube and search, and the videos are there. They're gross. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like I said, they don't even look like spiders. They are just gross looking.
They are. They truly are. And now, while you were there, did you get to interact with any other branches of the military?
So I got to a little bit, but not very much. So in the COC where our unit worked at, like the ones that did all the like the actual air traffic and like direct air support, like coordination and stuff. There were some in there. There was a few Air Force and a few Army, and actually that there was some British military in there as well. But I didn't really talk to them a lot. I just was kind of around them some, so I really didn't interact a whole lot. So I mean, I didn't really get a lot of experience with other branches up at this point, at least.
Okay. And then you are back at Camp Pendleton, and then you end up going to Afghanistan, you said?
Yep.
Okay. What was that like in comparison to Iraq when you get there?
It was way different. The camp that we went to in Afghanistan, it was fairly large, but there wasn't a lot on it, so everything was kind of centralized in the middle. And the chow hall was definitely not what I remember from being in Iraq. It was it was like a tent that they put up with like field mess in it, and so we still got to eat pretty decent. We didn't have any MRAs yet, but so that was okay. But yeah, no, it was definitely a lot different. And yeah, it was a lot more sandier than Iraq was, at least in the area that we were at. We had a lot more sandstorms that would come through. And then like the second half of that deployment, ended up having to go support an infantry battalion a little bit on one of their operations, but like it was definitely a lot worse. Well, I wouldn't say a lot worse. It was worse conditions wise than my first one. So that was kind of a surprise to me.
Interesting. You go through your time in Afghanistan. What was the campaign that you were in there? What was that one?
So when I first got to Afghanistan, so we got there in October of 09. And so this was still when before like the First Marine Division took over. So it was still the MEB that was in charge out there. So it was still OIF and OEF. I honestly don't remember the campaign numbers because again, like being there, I was actually technically in 2 different campaigns for that one deployment.
Right.
Because of the transition of authority that took place kind of like halfway through my deployment.
Yeah. And you were there for how long in Afghanistan?
7 months. So yeah, so October to April.
Okay.
So from October '09 to April 2010. So at some point, so 2008, 2009, 2010, at parts of those years, I was deployed either to Iraq or Afghanistan those 3 years.
Wow. And you come back to the
Mhm.
States. Are you back in Pendleton?
Yep, get back to Pendleton. Start getting we get come back and do our post deployment leave, and then getting ready, kind of really for our next rotation, next deployment going out, and then the summer of 2011. So that following year, I get orders to PCS, and I go to Camp Lejeune, and go to my PCS to the First Battalion, 8th Marines, go to an infantry battalion. I get there in July of 2011, and we deploy to Afghanistan in January 2012.
And from the last time you were in Afghanistan to 2012, did it change for you?
Um, the main base that we went into, or the main camp that's kind of like our transient area, which is like the main base where everybody kind of comes into Afghanistan and then goes out to their areas. It had gotten a lot bigger, a lot more garrison like, I would say, than the first time I was there. But where we were at for the majority of the deployment, we were only there for maybe 3 days before we went out to our main fob. Because again, doing the infantry battalion, they were much further out from the main camps, and so being out in that area is a lot different too than the last deployment that I'd been on, or the first one I went to Afghanistan on. Um, so
And during the time there, when you're the last time you were there, or at least this time, were you able to work with any other branches of military, or just still strictly the Marine Corps?
so it was mainly Marines. We did have one. I believe they were Army. Yeah, they were Army. But they were like kind of like our Afghan kind of law enforcement, kind of like they kind of help support the local law enforcement in the area. We also did some of that as well, like my battalion did. I didn't, because again, being a comm guy, I just provide the comms for them to work on. But yeah, we had a specific Army unit that came out, and that's what they did. They worked specifically in our area with the local law enforcement there.
Nice. Can you tell me funny stories that you might have about your time in either Iraq or Afghanistan?
Um, I don't know if they're really funny, but I guess some things that I'm trying to think. Man, that was so long ago. I got to think now, because let's see, this would have been almost what, 15 years now, 14 years almost now. Yeah. Man, it doesn't feel like it's been that long. It
I
doesn't feel like
know.
it's been 14 years. Holy cow. Probably the funniest thing that happened when I was in Iraq in 2008. Um, Probably just interacting with, so around Camp Fallujah, some of the gate guards and with like on camp and stuff, like getting into some of the areas, they weren't U.S. troops. They were actually Ugandan troops that kind of supplemented the
Wow.
interior. Those
Okay.
guys were hilarious. Like, I don't know, like they did their job really well, but just getting to know, like, talking to them a little bit, and like they would, every time you would ride by, like if we were on the gator going to get like our midnight, our mid rats and stuff for at night, they'd be like, Jumbo away, like that's how they say hello and stuff like that. And like, so we would just yell it back at him. And I guess that's kind of a funny story, just kind of under, like, getting to know
Yeah.
their language a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and the
Yeah.
fact that you still remember,
Yeah.
that says something, right? It made an impact. So, and was there a moment either in Iraq or Afghanistan that you remember, and not because it was funny?
Yeah. So my first deployment to Afghanistan, we'd been in country right at a month. And so, um, buddy of mine ended up stepping on an IED that day. It was Halloween day, 2009. So
Oh,
Halloween
wow.
it's always a little bit hard around Halloween. But yeah, I mean, when what really sucks is it was at the very beginning of our deployment, and we still had 6 months to go, and so um,
And what was his name?
Cesar Ruiz.
It's good to say his name.
It is.
And thank you for sharing that, because we'll be thinking of him as well. So so you're back now, you're over in Camp Lejeune or at this point, and
Yep.
what happens next for you?
So get back from the 2012 deployment, and so one thing I will say about that deployment, it was even worse than the 2009 Afghan deployment because of conditions wise. Like the conditions were way worse. Showered once a week, got to wash my clothes maybe once a week at most. Had to use the bathroom in bags and go throw them into the burn pit. And we would have to pee in PVC pipe driven in the ground. Like, and where ours were at, I could literally see kids playing soccer in their front yards. So it was a way different experience. Took some small arms fire and some mortar fire then too during that deployment, and it was a lot different, a lot rougher, I would say.
And was that the first time you ever had some kind of conflict that close to where you were?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I can only imagine what was going through your mind then.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I will say, at this point in my career, my training, I guess, kicked in because like it didn't bother me until I guess after the fact, like once everything was done, and we just sit around and talk about it. So like talking about it actually helped out a lot. So.
Yeah, which is good. All right, and then you come back again,
Yep.
and where do you go from there?
Yeah, so come back to Camp Lejeune. Kind of this, almost kind of like the same deal as got back, did our post deployment leave, and then was getting ready for our next deployment. And we were actually scheduled to go to Okinawa, Japan for a unit training, UDP or unit deployment program. But I got promoted to staff sergeant, got selected and promoted to staff sergeant before going there. And so at an infantry battalion in my MOS, they didn't rate a staff sergeant. So I got orders, had to go to Okinawa. So I got stationed in Okinawa instead of going with them. So did that, and I was only there for a year. So luckily I only had to go for a year because of my son. He couldn't get cleared medically. So his overseas kind of screening got denied, and so my family had to stay back here in the States while I went to Okinawa for a year.
Wow. Yeah, that's got to be tough. And how old was your son?
At this point, he was 2. Let me see. Yeah, he would have been 2, 3 almost. Or he was actually almost 3, and our youngest daughter was just turning 1 when I left.
And he couldn't get cleared?
Because so he had when he was born, he was born with extra bones in one side of his foot and his pinky toe on his left foot.
Wow.
And they surgically had to remove the bones, and he had to see a special orthopedic surgeon on a regular basis to make sure there was no issues with the growth and stuff like that. And they couldn't provide that on island in Okinawa.
How's he doing today?
Oh, he's good now. I could definitely, like, you can still see where he's still got a scar there. That main knuckle, the big knuckle or speaky toe, is still a little bit bigger, but it doesn't bother him. It doesn't hinder him whatsoever. Still walks around, still wears shoes, no problem.
Nice.
Yeah.
And all right, so you're in Okinawa. What did you think of the difference between Okinawa versus Afghanistan and Iraq?
Oh, it was way different. I loved being in Okinawa. I really wish the family could have went because I think they would have enjoyed it too. Like that's actually a really good place for families to be, in my opinion. I felt safe even every time I went off base and stuff, and being there alone and as a staff sergeant, you got to find other staff NCOs to kind of buddy up with and go kind of hang out with. And there really wasn't that many in my shop, and if most of them were married, so it wasn't like they were going to go hang out on a Friday night or a Saturday night,
Right.
So, but no, it was a lot of fun. Again, I really wish the family could have went because I think they would have enjoyed it.
Did you have a favorite food that you like to eat there?
So when I left the States, I liked sushi, but when I came back from Okinawa, I was definitely a sushi snob when I came back from Okinawa because their sushi was really good. But I will say, Coco's curry is the best curry I've ever had in my entire life.
Oh,
Koko's
wow.
Ichiban. Yes. And
Wow.
if anybody's ever been in Okinawa, they know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not a big curry fan, and maybe that's because it's been Americanized. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like more of a coconut style curry. It's really good. It's
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how any other way to explain it.
yeah. All right. So you come back. What happens next for you?
Yeah. So while I was in Okinawa, I would say luckily again, my family got to stay in base housing at Camp Lejeune, so they didn't have to move or go anywhere when I left. So when I got orders, I actually requested to go to 29 Palms, California, which not many Marines do that.
Mm-mm.
But I wanted to go be an instructor at my MOS school, so I wanted to go teach new Marines coming in how to be um, data administrators, essentially.
Nice.
Train them the basics in my MOS. So didn't have any issues getting that duty station. So whenever we moved, I flew back to Camp Lejeune. DMO or the moving people, they'd already came and packed up our house, so picked them up, got in the cars, and drove across country to 29 Palms.
Wow.
And
And then how long?
this was in July of 2015.
Goodness gracious. How long were you there for?
There for about 4 years. So yeah, so got there in 14, or got there in 15 and left at the end of 18. So 3.5 years.
Okay. And were you still in the Marine Corps at this time?
Yep. I
Okay.
was still in.
And what did you do after that from that point?
So while I was there as an instructor, I actually applied to become a warrant officer. And so got accepted to that and went off to my warrant officer basic course in Quantico at the beginning of 2018. So end of January, went to Quantico for that training and then came back to 29 Palms because that's where my follow-on school was as a warrant officer as well, was that.
Okay. And how difficult was that training in Quantico?
Um, it was like I'd already been in the Marine Corps for 12, 13 years almost at this point, and it was very physically demanding. It was like going through MCT on steroids. It's all the infantry training all over again. They pretty much they teach you how to be an infantry, like a platoon leader. They really platoon leader.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. And then you go back to Lejeune. And then how does that go for you?
Yeah. So once I get done at my one officer basic course, go back to 29 Palms for my school, and then my first duty station as a brand new warrant officer, I do come to Camp Lejeune for that. Um, Go to a comm battalion here at Camp Lejeune. I will say I was very fortunate because my battalion commander, when I first showed up here, was my first company commander when I showed up as an instructor in 29 Palms. So me and him
Oh,
already had a really good like working relationship. He knew who I was. He knew everything. So we were both excited to get to work with each other again. That definitely made it a little bit easier for me transitioning as a brand new warrant officer, and I had some really good other chief warrant officers around me too that I got to kind of dig in with and get mentored by.
nice. How long did you do that for?
So I got there at the end of 18, beginning of 19, and I ended up having to retire early at the end of May 2022. So I was there for almost 4 years, right at 4 years, roughly 3.5, 4 years.
Okay. And so you retired out.
Yep. I had to
And
retire early. I didn't get to do my full 20. So I always like to say that because most people hear me say retire, they immediately think 20. But I ended up having to go through a medical board and was found unfit for continued service. And I think what the worst part for me was is I could still do the technical side of my job. Like I could still do the IT side of my job. Is I couldn't do the Marine Corps stuff anymore. I couldn't run, couldn't do pull ups, couldn't go to the field, couldn't go to rifle range. So I couldn't be a Marine, but I could still do my job. And if in Marines that's all that matters is the Marine stuff at the end of the day, honestly, because all Marines we are riflemen first at the end of the day. So,
right, right.
But again, I feel like I've had a lot of fortunates in my career. Having over 15 years of service at this point, I was eligible for TERA or temporary early retirement, and so when I got my med board findings back, I denied those and waived my med board findings and applied for TERA. and I actually got to do an early retirement. So it wasn't a medical retirement; it was just early retirement.
Right. And so you're able then to have a monthly income.
Yep. Yep. So I get a retirement pension. Yep. I got a retirement pension just like if I'd have went to 20. The only difference is it's calculated differently. Instead of it being at with the 50%, I think it like calculated out to be like 38% instead of 50. But yeah, I still get monthly, and I still get my VA disability as well.
Which is wonderful. If you could go back to any of the places that you have been deployed to, either stationed or visited, and this is from G23, who's out in the chats, where would it be and why?
Oh, okay. So stationed, my favorite duty station, and my wife would tell you the same thing. Our favorite place to be was actually 29 Palms. Being permanent personnel in 29 Palms was the best thing ever. I know probably most people would think I'm crazy but again, most Marines that I know only know it from either being there in like entry level school or being in the field, like training wise, and that's all they ever known. But being there for almost 4 years as permanent personnel, it was the best time.
Nice.
That 29 Palms has so many things for the family. Like most, like Camp Pendleton and Camp Lejeune, when like the MCCS, the Marine Corps Community Services, they do things on base or do kind of events. A lot of times they're tailored to the younger or the single style Marine with some of their events. In 29 Palms, they're always thinking about not just the single Marine, but the families as well. So they're always doing things for the family. And that was probably one of the biggest things that we enjoyed there.
Nice. Very nice. If you had the opportunity, would you take your family to Okinawa?
I would, yeah. Yeah. I think they would enjoy it just for the experience. I thought the culture was awesome. The people there are actually really nice. Just don't call them Japanese if they're the old generation of Okinawans. Don't call them Japanese. I did learn that the hard way.
What do you call them?
They're Okinawan.
Okay. Interesting. I've learned something. Tell me about, excuse me, tell me about how your time in the Marine Corps forged your path as a civilian.
I would probably say that I'm going to do this I'm going to give it in two different answers, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Absolutely.
I'll say the first answer I'm going to give you is kind of the reason I truly believe everything happens for a reason, like good or bad, like everything always happens for a reason. And the reason I want to tell this part of it is because if I would have came in 2003 when I was originally supposed to, I was actually coming in as a grunt or infantry at that point in time. And after being in the Marine Corps for some time, I started learning the kind of the timeline of the Marine Corps within the global war on terrorism. If I would have came in 2003, I would have been done with recruit training and ITB by the end of 2003. The spring of 2004 was the first Fallujah. November of 2004 was Fan and Fury. 2005 was Ramadi, all in Iraq. If I would have went in 2003, I would have probably been in either one or multiple of those, or I wouldn't have came back home at all, or I would have been mentally or physically broken coming home. I wouldn't have had the family that I have now, wouldn't have the career that I have now. So like, that's one thing that just because I didn't get to go when I was originally wanting to, that completely changed the course of my life. Right.
Yes.
And then coming in 2006, I met a lot of good people. Like I've had so many people I still today call a mentor that I've met, like leadership that I've met. I also learned a lot from some bad leaders that I had during that time, you know. But again, I also I met my wife when I was stationed at Camp Pendleton. So I wouldn't have met her, wouldn't have had the 3 kids that we have today, you know. I also wouldn't have the career path that I have today. You know, I wouldn't have gotten IT. Like it's weird to say that a Marine Marines made me a nerd, but like it did really. Like it got me into the IT world and taught me a lot. And I love doing what I do. Like I'll do a lot of the same things that I did when I was a chief warrant officer, like as I retired, like the higher level planning and stuff. And I really enjoy doing those things. And so, yeah, I mean, the Marine Corps is really, it taught me a lot about myself. It also gave me a good career to have outside too.
So in talking to anybody interested in joining the military, what words of wisdom would you have for them about choosing an MOS?
Probably what I would tell them, and now I'm not trying to deter anybody from being infantry or anything like that, because we need those folks as well. But what I will say is that if you're looking at wanting to take something from the military that you can do on, like, once you get out, whether that be after 4 years or after 20 years or after 30 years, um, start looking at things that you think you could be interested in. And I didn't think I would ever be interested in IT stuff, and the Marine Corps kind of gave me that opportunity. But that's one thing I would say is ensure that you could take the skills that you take from your time in the military and be able to take those out into the civilian world once you get out. Because there's a lot of folks that join and they get through and do 4 years or even sometimes 20 years, but because of what their job was, they only have they only really have one goal or one thing that they can do, or one kind of career field that they can go into. And like a lot of times it's law enforcement or security or something like that, because that's
Right.
just the same type of stuff that they did in the military. And again, nothing wrong with that, because we need those types of folks. But again, if it's something that if you don't want to, if you don't want to do that for the rest of your life, then definitely I would say try to pick something else.
G23 wants to know, what is your favorite crayon to eat?
I'm a big red guy. I like red.
Does it taste like cinnamon or cherry?
More of a cherry guy.
Okay. All right. Tell me about the resources that were provided to you when you were retiring out.
So I will say the transition readiness seminar I went through was not really good. It was I only had to go for one day.
Oh, wow.
Because I was retiring and I already had a job offer, so I only had to go to one day course, and it was not that good. And even if I'd have went the entire week, it still wasn't that great. I had some friends that were also going through at the same time, and it still wasn't that great. In my opinion, does not set us up for success on the outside.
So you would do things differently if you had that opportunity.
Yeah, I would if I had the opportunity or could, change some things, I would definitely change some of the stuff that they go through or teach closer the people get out. Because I don't think they do a really good job I say it sometimes this jokingly, but it's still true. At least the Marine Corps, they don't teach you how to be an adult very well outside the military.
Right.
They teach you how to be a good Marine. They teach you how to do that. They teach you how to do that really well, but they don't teach you how to be an adult in society once you take that uniform off.
Right. And yeah, that's a hard thing, I think, for most Marines that have spent any amount of time in the military. Once you get out, it's trying to figure out what to do next if you don't already have something in place. And I think that's so important, to start trying to find something before you get out, because otherwise you get in your head. And I have seen it. My oldest went through it. After a month that he was out, he spiraled.
Yeah.
He spiraled. Had to take him into the VA for mental health. And it's kind of an eye opener for both of us, for all of us. And it wasn't an easy road. So.
Yeah. After I retired, I already had a job lined up, but again, I fell into a job that was almost a lot like what I did in the Marine Corps. So it was super easy, and I supported the Department of the Navy with the role that I was in as well. But what I learned really quickly is being on that side of the work was I had to wait for a lot. I really had to wait for explicit tasking before I could really do anything. I could, like, as a Marine, I could take initiative and start doing things that I knew needed to get done. I just do them, or to have other people do them, Being on the contractor side, I had to wait for explicit tasking, so I couldn't really do anything unless I had an absolute task to do it. And so I'm the type of person that I have to stay busy. My mind has to stay busy, or I start getting into some bad places personally. Like, and that's kind of what happened about 6 months after I retired. And I just got to a point where I didn't like what I was doing at work, because really I wasn't doing a whole lot anyways. So I'd find other ways to kind of, preoccupy my mind, and a lot of times it wasn't good places. And me and my wife started having some problems, and it was all 100% my fault. Reason all these problems started happening, and we ended up separating for a little while. Luckily, we decided to work things out. After being separated for a few months, we decided to work things out, and I think we're definitely in a much better spot now than we were even before I got out of the Marine Corps. But yeah, I mean, they don't teach you how to take care of yourself when, like, you don't have your brothers and sisters that close to you all the time.
Right.
One thing I will say is, do not isolate yourself from the veteran community or from your veteran buddies, because that's the worst thing you could ever do. Because that's one thing I did start doing. I started getting kind of in my own headspace, and I would never tell anybody that I was a veteran. I would never, like, if anybody asked, I was like, yeah, I did that. But, like, it was nothing I would ever, like, talk about a lot, and I got away from doing my podcast at this point too, because I'd already started my podcasts before I got out of the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And so, like, I stopped doing that because I wasn't in a good spot myself personally. So I didn't feel like I had to reprioritize my life, really. And my podcast kind of took a back burner with that.
So tell me about the resources that you found to help with what was going through your mind and in your area.
Yeah, so most places have these. I don't know how many do, but if you have a vet center in your area, vet centers are phenomenal. They're not attached to the VA, so you don't have to worry about getting a referral from the VA or doing anything like that. Just, you can go to your local vet center. They have counselors. They have certified counselors there. You could do personal counseling. You can do group counseling. You could do family counseling. You can do marriage counseling. Like your kid, like your wife and kids can go there for their own personal counseling as well. So there's so many things that the vet center will do for you. And like our vet center does, like, almost like daily type of things. So every Friday morning they do a veterans breakfast, where if you want, come in Friday mornings, they have a breakfast, bring some donuts, bring whatever, and just sit there and kind of talk and just kind of congregate, and so to speak, with other veterans, so they do a lot of things like that too.
Wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. Any final words for the listeners?
I think the only thing I would probably say to everybody right now is, I've been through my own struggles, and we all have, but just know that it's okay to not be okay, and that I guarantee you there's somebody out there that loves you and wants to see you succeed, and it's okay to talk about it.
Great. And real quick before I forget, tell me about the Bunkhouse podcast.
Yeah. So I started the Bunkhouse podcast when I was still active duty, and when I first started, I would bring veterans on to allow them to share their kind of journey and, like, their career path of IT and cybersecurity. Because, again, that's what I did in the Marine Corps, so that it was easy for me to talk about that with other veterans. By the end of 2022, I decided to kind of start doing a second session around mental health, only, and that it'd be only mental health. And I only actually got to record one episode back then, and that's kind of when my kind of downward spiral started happening, and I took a break. And just last year in 2025, I decided to start planning my relaunch, and I've already relaunched this year. And so April was my first episode that I published, my pre-recorded episode that I published. And I've actually now partnered with MBR myself as well. So I go live every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern. So
nice. So y'all be sure to check that out. Jason says, Johnathan, thank you for your service and Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, Jason.
We have, let's see, G23 says, thank you for your service. Did I miss anybody? Let's see.
Oh, one thing real quick, Carly, because I don't think, or Carolee, I think I kind of skipped, maybe I've glossed over it, but
go for it.
What I do now with my podcast, I bring veterans on and allow them to share their story, and we focus primarily on mental health and the
Nice.
struggles, the things that they've been through, the struggles that has cost them in their lives, and then what they've done to start the healing or what they've been doing on their healing journey, and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I talk about on my show.
That's wonderful. So y'all be sure to. Oh, wait, let's see. G23 wants to know if you've heard about the Walk the Talk America.
I have not.
I have not either. Yeah, same. So I want to say thank you for coming out. And if you want to hold tight for me while I wrap this up, but thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to have you come on the channel. And for everyone out there, please make sure to hit the like button, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that notification bell at the end of the show, because you'll get notified for every podcast that comes up for this channel. Thank you all very much. Much appreciated for taking the time out of your day to join us. You all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you again next Sunday, 6 p.m. Central.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.